Welcome to our Healing Voices podcast and YouTube channel. My name's Aaron Lehman, and really excited for this day, for this conversation that I'm going to have today with Olivia Avanzato. And I am really excited. Yeah. So for those of you who are brand new to the podcast, brand new to the YouTube channel, the goal of the Our Healing Voices community is that we are to remember that we're not alone, to remember that we have people around us that are on the journey. And that, because I think sometimes in a super tech world where, I just posted on my Instagram this morning, probably posted on my Facebook, and it can become a little bit like we're just posting images and we're not getting to have these conversations. We're not getting to actually know one another, or even taking the time to have the conversation. So the goal, I think, for me is how can we really show up and learn from each other and realize we're not alone on the journey? How can we show up and like just pay attention to what we're each going through and what tools we're using to, like, as we're walking through different aspects of our lives. So that's why this thing came to be, is that I am just super intrigued by humans. I have never shared this before, but I sometimes wish that we all had like a little screen above our heads that and I could just ask specific questions to, like, when I'm out in the community or whatever, and I would just get like, oh, that's what they're about, or that's what they care about, or it would just be like a little billboard above their heads. So maybe that's also part of the reason I started this, is because I really, really do want to know, and I'm honestly just so amazed at the resilience of humans, and so I really think that that's another piece I want us to share our voices, because I think sometimes we're unsure of when or how or where or who wants to listen. And yet I really think a lot of us do want to listen to one another and do want to get to know each other more deeply, or deeper. So here we are, and I am really, just stoked to have you with us today, Olivia. Olivia and I met back in 2014. We were hanging out at a hippie teen camp over in New York, and both kind of there with similar missions, honestly. We had unique methods of sharing, but I feel like we both had like similar missions of just showing up for kids and inviting kids to feel safe to be themselves. And I'll ask you more about that in a little bit, but just really grateful to have met you and your beautiful partner, Nadia, there. Just feel so grateful for the connection that the two of you, and then Sarah and I, the four of us, have had some really beautiful connections and conversations, and just vulnerable sharing that I really value and am thankful for. It's our friendship with you guys, with both of you, and with you individually. Just my friendship with you, the conversations you and I've had have touched me, and I know that you see me, and I see you, and really just think that you're what you're creating right now and what you're pursuing really gets me excited. I know that people need to hear your voice. People need to, in all the ways, whether it's, and you have explored many different ways. You have, I saw on your Instagram the other day, another book perhaps coming out soon. So anyway, I would love to hear about how that's coming, and also your first book. Anyway, and you're finishing up a master's degree right now, which is so cool. And you're a dancer, like you taught tap, you teach dance. I don't think it's just tap. Maybe it is just tap, but I feel like you're
all of the things.
So anyway, that being said, I'm grateful and appreciative of you being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention that I'm really proud that you are stepping into this platform because this is a big strength of yours and has always been, where you're able to create space for people to share and really actively listen. And especially in my work in the counseling field now, I've learned how much we are just kind of conditioned to think about what we're going to say when the other person is talking, rather than really dropping in and listening. And you've always had that gift, and that's been an amazing gift that you use to connect to people one-on-one, but now you're taking that and sharing that. And I think that's awesome. So I'm so proud of you, and I'm glad to be here too.
Awesome. Thanks, Olivia.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, yeah, so to get started, maybe drop us in a little bit about your journey up till now. Have there been, I wouldn't mind just starting deep if you're open to it.
Yeah.
And, as you think of your life journey up till now, obviously you've had many pivotal moments, many game-changing experiences up till now. Are there 2 or 3 that you'd be open to sharing with us, as much or as little as you want to share? And
Definitely.
yeah, that have you where you are today?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's a big question. And when I think of my life as like, what have I been focused on as an adult, since my early 20s, it's been career and relationship, and then creative expression. So I guess it's like those 3 things. So basically, since I was 20 and graduated from school, undergrad, I've been on this quest to figure out what my purpose is and how I can find a job or a career that's really like my vocation, where I can serve others, where I can use what I have to offer, and also, get paid to do that. So I think, one of the first pivotal moments in that direction was starting off, deciding to move to North Carolina right after undergrad because I wanted to be somewhere warm. So I picked North Carolina, and I moved down there without a job, just with faith, which is a theme in my life. And I started just putting myself out there. I volunteered at a fashion week, and I made connections. And within a week, I had exactly what I was trying to manifest, which is like 40-hour-a-week, stable position with benefits, 25 to 30,000 a year. That was what I was trying to manifest as this new college grad. And looking back at that, I have compassion for myself because that's so limiting. But that's at that moment when you graduate college, when I graduate college, I'm like, okay, that's what I need, is like this stable full-time 9-to-5 with benefits, 25 to 30,000. Boom, instantly got that. And in a carpet and fabric company, had nothing to do with my passions at all, but I made some really good connections there. I did my best. I kind of bloomed where I was planted. I was really into positive psychology at that point and affirmations. And so I just kind of was the light where I was. And also I was terribly uncomfortable. That was this moment in my life, was like, this is what people do. They just sit at desks doing paperwork, waiting till Friday. Like, how was your weekend? Oh, it's Monday. Like the mundane repetition of that, and no way to really express myself creatively was what made me say, like, what the heck? There's got to be more to life than this. So I think that was a gift, because that fire was burning in me to start seeking. So I moved back to New York. I moved to New York City. Because of that job, I was able to move to New York City and stay with the company. So still have like a stable position, but start exploring more and trying to find my people. So I found a life coaching program called She Creates Change, and it was for women looking for their purpose. And up to that point, I just thought I was alone, that I was the only one that felt this way, because my parents, they're wonderful people, but in their generation, it's like you are at a job and you work for 30 years and then you retire and you do your hobbies, you know, on the weekends. And I just wasn't about that. And it was really painful to, for my parents to not really understand me and to feel like there was something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
So for the first time, I was surrounded with women also saying there's got to be something more. And in that life coaching program, I really started to explore, what are my passions? What are my gifts? How can I make this into something where I get paid to do it? And at the same time, I started going to this meditation program, which was a requirement of the course, because it's not enough to just be actively out in the world looking for your passions and doing the things. It's also about like coming home to yourself and really grounding yourself. So I had these two things of like this external support for career and then this internal like spiritual connection as I was doing these meditations. And that's where I met Nadia, was at the meditation retreat.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So that was just like, that was a major moment in my life where I realized like there's more to life and I'm going to explore it. I'm not going to be unhappy at jobs and just kind of go through life like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was clear early on.
Mm-hmm. It was like 21, 22.
Yeah. You were like, I cannot do this for a long time and find another way. And then you found that community in the city, which really like sparked and almost like just was like, you're like, oh, I'm not the only one that has wants more, doesn't want to just live for the weekends or that next weekend, you know? It's like, how can I really create something that I'm enjoying and getting paid abundantly for?
Yeah.
So keep going. So then you, if you will, keep going on it. 'Cause yeah.
I think a big part of that course too was not just as planning for the future and like stepping into that, but bringing pieces into your life now. So I remember at the time, I've always been a dancer. I danced all through childhood and high school, and then college I kind of stopped and I kind of shifted more to music, but the dance was definitely missing. And just kind of feeling like, well, I wish I could dance, but there's nowhere, you know, these negative thoughts about like, where am I going to dance? And that course pushed me to look up a dance class. Like it's a simple thing like that, but that was another game changer for me. I found a dance studio in my neighborhood in Queens that was salsa dance. Never salsa danced before. And that was the most at home I've ever felt in my body, was doing salsa dancing. And I started taking beginner classes. And because I have dance experience, I was able to just instantly like really learn. And I had mentors and I became a part of their like professional dance company and I taught. And so it was just like, if I had stayed small, of like, well, I want to dance, but I don't know if I can, or whatever it is, I stepped out and it created this expansion.
Wow. So they would just, within that group, you would have like a one-on-one, somebody kind of encouraging you. All right. So you really have this passion for dance. Figure out, tell us how you're going to utilize that passion or get into that.
Right. Let's like do, what's the, like, you know, the next right thing or the one small thing that you can do. Take a dance class. Oh yes. Like sometimes simple things like that, just getting out of your comfort zone. Yeah.
Well, it helped. When did the teen camp kind of mix in there? That was within like soon after that? Because I remember you and Nadia had met at that meditation. Was that like in that year prior or something? And then you all found this hippie teen camp to come and bless a ton of kids with.
You know, thinking back about it, part of the life coaching program was to really like explore, you know, different things that were interesting to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about nature and working with young people and using music and movement. And I just kind of Googled, and like spirituality. So I just Googled like spiritual teen camp, and I came across Omega. And I was still working in this New York City office and doing my dance and life coaching part-time. But I found Adam Simon, who's the director, and I did an informational interview with him
Mm-hmm.
as part of the program, like interview someone that's doing what you want to do. And so it was a year prior before I actually, like the next summer, we stayed in touch and I came on as a counselor. But it was in that, with that program, like researching and connecting to people doing stuff that I wanted to do.
Cool.
So yeah.
Oh, so cool. Oh my goodness. And what I remember, you know, what I remember is that the teenagers were loving and just showing up to your work, you and Nadia's workshops, and just in heaven. I think, you know, the warmth that you created, that you both bring individually, but then when you co-created the space, it was like, I just remember like the go around at the end of camp and people just being like, Olivia and Nadia changed my world, you know? And I was like, I want to be friends with those two also for the rest of my life. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good reminder because that probably was one of the best summers of my life, where I really felt like I was in my purpose. And at the same time, it was so difficult and challenging because, as you know, here we are living in the woods for like 8 weeks with teenagers, like limited sleep, limited solo time. We would have like one day off or something, or a couple hours even. Remember, we would just like, let's go to Panera and like be humans. So as much as I was stepping into my purpose and like passion, I was not, you know, I was a little bit depleted too. And the work is good, but the money wasn't. So it's just, I think that experience kind of was like, started this belief of like, I can do what I love, but I can't get paid for it.
Yeah.
And I experienced that for a little while after that. Or it's like, if I want to do what I love, I have to be okay with kind of, you know, making minimal money, which is an unfortunate belief.
Right. And I've had similar challenges with that belief as well. Right. I think it's, yeah. No, I feel you on that. Yeah. So then after that reality, you ended up, how soon after y'all moved to Tucson, Arizona? Or, you know, you moved to Surprise first. You moved to Surprise, Arizona first.
Yeah.
How would I forget that? I'm sorry. Yeah.
So camp ended in August or something like that.
Yeah.
Nadia kind of had to go our separate ways, because at that point I had been following my passions, blown up everything, quit my full-time salaried, you know, cushy job to follow my bliss to this teen camp. And all of a sudden, like, you know, I don't have a job. I don't have an apartment. I had, you know, to go back to my parents, and Nadia went back to her mom's. And it was a really hard time because it was kind of like I was on this high of like, I'm doing finally, I'm like not just like locked to a job I hate. I'm doing my passions, I'm doing my bliss, and I have home. So, you know, it was the first time I had lived at home with my parents since I was in high school, and it was really challenging. And just being apart from Nadia too, after that really intense summer of doing our good work. So we were kind of seeking a solution. We would see each other every couple of weeks, but we're like, this isn't sustainable. I didn't want to move back to New York City and the rat race of it all. And so Sarah reached out to us and was like, why don't you come out here? We have a place in Surprise. And we just said yes. We said yes to it. No jobs, no money, no plan.
Mm-hmm.
We flew out just with our suitcases and guitars and computers.
Wow. Speaking of leaps of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do y'all do that? I mean, I think so, because I know a lot of people probably that are listening are like, wow, that's, just to whoop, out of nowhere. I mean, Arizona, maybe California was a little bit on both of your
Mm-hmm.
bucket list wavelength or whatever, but not,
Sure.
but Arizona. So,
Yeah.
how do you take a leap of faith like that what?
I think I feel very blessed to have a partner that has similar faith in stepping into the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it before on my own, but I think, having another person that's like, yeah, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
I also, acknowledge like my privilege as, even just saying an attractive woman. Like I can easily just get a job because I smile, have a nice smile. That's what I've experienced. I have a good personality and all of that stuff, but
Yeah.
there is some privilege that comes to, having a pretty smile or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also privilege to having parents that will support me no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I've taken these big leaps, but I know that if I ever fall, that I have a safety net. My parents, aren't rich, but they aren't going to let me be homeless.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of privilege in that, of having that feeling of support for sure.
Totally.
But then, yeah, just the faith of like, you know what, I can call in the good that I need.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not look like what I need or what I think I need. And it might be hard for a little while, but yeah, I just have done it over and over again. And there's so much good that comes from the leap that.
Yeah. Well, I think you've touched a lot of different zones of, the meditation, going within, that like going within, like, okay, what are my passions? Going and dancing, then being led and feeling called to go out to this teen camp and to share there. So at the teen camp you shared and helped supported a lot of folks there. And then you both are like, okay, we're really into each other. How do we do this thing, long distance, or can we find a space and take a leap? When I think of you and I think of one memory that pops up in my brain is karaoke. Going to karaoke one night in Glendale, Arizona with you two.
Interesting.
Yes. And I remember being so impressed with, because, here I'm like singing whatever I don't know. I think I was singing Semi-Charmed Life or something like that, like.
Right? Isn't that the one?
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. And yeah, and you both were very like specific about the songs you would allow yourselves to sing, and I was like, wow, this is next level, and I'm and I'm like that. It was, you wanted to sing some sort of uplifting energy song that you could both like feel good about at the, like walk out of there being like, okay, that felt good. And we brought some light, into this space or whatever. And I just remember being like really amazed at that. And I'm not sure where that, maybe you could shine a little light on where that kind of came from, because, I feel like both of you and you just are very intentional about the way you show up and live, and you make time and you make space for self-care, and I'm not saying that you're rocking it flawlessly or something, but it seems to me from the outsider, I'm like, man, she's got it figured out. She does this, does self-care way better than I do, Anyway, I'm kind of on a little tangent, but
I was going to say yes. And
yeah,
like,
fill me in just a little bit about kind of the music, like the singing thing, and, and why that, like, is that something you would still be kind of like, if we were to go to karaoke the next time we see y'all, would you still do that? Like, that's more of how y'all choose to.
Yeah, I mean, so we're not even karaoke people at all, to be honest, because I don't know. I think it's because we like play guitar and sing that we're like, what this fucking track? Like, I don't, with guitar, you can like change the key.
Right.
Also, I have a lot of love and like patience for people, and also like bad singing just like grinds my gears. So that's my human moment of why I don't typically go to karaoke. But when I was kind of discovering my passions, music and songwriting is a big passion of mine. And at the same time, I was, learning all these principles through life coaching and new thought and the meditation and stuff. And I'm like, imagine if it was in our head instead of whatever song is on the radio right now. Like, just whatever negative thing. Like, like imagine if what was in our head was like, I live my full potential every day. And you're just walking around with that in your head. It's like, that's a lot better than like, oh, she's sweet but a psycho, a little bit psycho. I like that song too. But I do like to be intentional with my music and what I write and what I share and what I listen to. And Nadia was on the same page, and we just started making music together, and just really focusing on making it positive. Yeah, and as I've grown, I realized that a song doesn't have to necessarily always be positive to be powerful and to make a difference, because you don't want to like, just steamroll feelings and it's like everything is fine. Like, there's hard stuff in life, and it's okay to acknowledge that too.
Yeah, totally. So and that makes me think of tell us a little bit about your writing projects.
Yeah. I also am just like thinking, I'm like, I feel bad that I said like bad singers, just like slightly, slightly off key. It just is like
real talk. Hey, you know what? Real talk. It's okay to have preferences.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Thank you.
Okay to have preferences.
Yes.
And you know what? I think, not everybody loves karaoke. Like, I think Sarah and I love it because, because Olivia, if you saw me back at 13 years old, I literally was using a remote control. My brother had a remote control, and we had two of our friends sitting on a couch, and we would sing a song, Michael W. Smith song or some song on to our friends before school at 6:30 a.m., 7 a.m., And so like for me, not having, so I think for me, like as an adult, you don't have a talent show to prepare.
Totally.
You don't, and that was, I don't have my neighborhood friends to just, so it's like, oh, karaoke, that's an option. But I totally hear you on, It's all good. You know what I don't like when people ride my tail when I'm driving. Like, it's okay to go around me. It's okay to go around me. Like, just give me some following distance behind me. Like, I think it's okay to have preferences and not.
Yeah. It's like my dad, you know, is Italian, has owned a restaurant, and it's like, he's very particular about like sauce, and like you can't put oregano in sauce. And a lot of like Italian American restaurants will put oregano in because that's their preference. But my dad is adamant that you don't put oregano in. And so it's like, if we go to a restaurant where there's oregano, it's just like, ugh. So it's kind of the same thing.
That's awesome. I think I'm going to have to try the next time I make a marinara over here, I'm going to have to do an oregano version and then oregano version so I can experience the difference.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So your books, your book, you said, and the reason I went there was you said something about, it's not like the human experience is all sorts of emotions. And you were saying that it's like, yes, I would prefer, my highest self loves it when I'm like singing like positive lyrics in my head. And also acknowledging that the human experience is not always positive lyrics rolling through the head.
Totally. Yes. Yeah. So I wrote a book about my pain, which is a kind of departure, because before that, Nadia and I were singing at a New Thought Spiritual Center about, I am light and all the stuff. And so it's having both of those things. It's like, I am a spiritual being. I am, connected to source. And I'm an effing mess right now because I'm going through emotional pain.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I've talked a lot about my partner, Nadia. Her and I have a lot in common when it comes to vision and values and talents. And we spent many years writing and creating together and building a home together. And we have 2 dogs. And at a certain point, there was some part of our relationship that cracked, where we couldn't go on. We were relating to each other. There was some codependency. We both had our own individual traumas and stuff. And I've learned now in counseling, it's like at a certain point, every person has these traumas through their life. And at a certain point you crack, and it's what you do after the crack. Do you go to substance? Do you go to whatever it is, debting or under earning or overeating? What do we do to kind of like fill this crack? Or do we look at it head on? So we both kind of individually cracked. And then all of a sudden we were like not the same beings in our relationship, and we separated. And it was really painful for me. It was painful for Nadia as well, but my experience is more of a love addiction experience. So, cut forward to today, I'm working at Willow House, which is a treatment facility for women dealing with intimacy issues, love addiction, love avoidance, sex addiction, domestic violence. And it's been such an eye-opening year of my life, personally and professionally, because I'm looking at all of these women that are coming in for treatment and reading the books that they're reading and realizing, wow, I was in a love addiction, love avoidance cycle with my partner a few years ago. And so I wrote the book, The Breakup Diaries. I have it here. I wrote it during the time that we were separated, and I was just withdrawing. It's love addiction, or like emotional withdrawal is sometimes just as painful as like a substance addiction. So I was in withdrawal from my drug, which was this person that, yes, I love her. And also I was using her to kind of fill the pieces of me that I needed. So I just felt like there was no other choice but to write. That's kind of what kept me alive, was just poems, or just seeking them into my phone and transcribing them later, because I was just a wreck. And there was a piece of me that knew that this was for a purpose. And there was a piece of me that said, I'm going to use this pain and express it creatively for myself and for others, because I know I'm not the only person that's gone through a breakup that's just devastating. So it was a really healing project.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, real talk. And I mean, boy, as you're sharing, it's like, yeah, I mean, sometimes I feel like I've got some love addiction going on myself, you know, in marriage partnership with Sarah, you know, where it's like, okay. You know, like, I mean, it's so interesting. Just how so many partnerships, it's like, there's so many of these messages we've gotten about what partnership ought to look like, you know, and we, you know, unintentionally or intentionally stop having as many hangouts with other friends, or stop being as intentional with, you know, with our own passions and pursuits, and, you know, and the next thing you know, you're like, hips are attached, and you know, and it's such a, you know, I know Sarah and I've, you know, we've talked with you and Nadia, just the last few years has been incredible, yeah, that's not working. My hip is feeling stressed out, and your hip is feeling stressed out, like, you know,
because it's like, you know, when it's so wonderful to find someone that you like really connect with and you want to unhealthy. So it's like learning that balance. And sometimes in our case, we had to break apart and do a lot of work on ourselves to come back together and be like this side by side, instead of like, you know, there was a lot of pain in the breaking apart, but it was ultimately for the good. So.
Yeah. And I would resonate with just that the work that you did, the healing, the processing you did, the healing and the processing that Nadia did. I mean, that, yeah, like you said, that was, I love how the cracks, you said the cracks. I'm sure there's somebody listening that's going through a tough time right now. You know, it's like, and the cracks, what are you going to fill those cracks with? You said some of us will, it's easy to fill it with substances, with sex, people, more people, you know, like all these different other.
Yeah. And I would like to sit here and say like, I instantly got better, but like, I picked up cigarettes instantly, because that was my thing from high school. So after like 8-10 years of not smoking cigarettes, all of a sudden I'm just like chain smoking. And that's not aligned with my values of like being a healthy, radiant, you know, positive being. But that was my go-to. That was my thing that was helping me during that time. It was my coping strategy. So I acknowledge that too in my writing, that sometimes we have things as crutches, and it's okay, and we don't have to judge ourselves. And slowly I was able to wean off the cigarettes and into more healthy things, you know, like dancing and creating, writing.
Yeah, you really did pour into dancing then. Quite a bit. I remember seeing. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah,
I had a dance. Like, you had a dance community. I created one.
Yeah, I had been teaching tap and salsa in Tucson, and around the time that Nadia and I were kind of having issues, I was starting to expand in my dance. I created a tap team called the Tappening, and it was just like a group of these really awesome people that were all really different, but we came together and we tapped. And that just kind of exploded. And I feel like that was another thing that kind of like kept me alive during that time, because we were doing shows at these big theaters in Tucson, like the Rialto and the Fox, and we were doing monthly shows at this other small venue. And it was something I could pour my energy into, that was like not about the breakup. It was like, and it combined community into it, which I really needed at that time. And it was fun. We did some silly dances like the Addams Family, and we were cheerleaders one time. But again, using that platform to kind of bring positive messages through too. Yeah.
Really appreciate you dropping in and sharing so vulnerably with us and me. It's I just know that I just feel like that's the real journey we're all on, you know. You know, and I think it's such a trip to like, I can sometimes, oh, that guy over there, he's rocking it. He's got it all squared away, or oh, wow, look at her, she's that, you know. And it's like, I think in the spiritual community that can happen, you know, where in different spiritual communities it's like, oh, well, she's got her crap together, you know, or he, you know. And it's like, I think we're all pruning. We're all doing, you know, we're all pruning, and sometimes that pruning is pretty and like intentional and life-giving, and other times the pruning is just ugly, difficult and painful and sad. And I feel like that's what, you know, I throw this, Sarah and I've been in therapy now for the last 10 months, and our therapist, I think more than anything, and I don't know, maybe you can relate on this, but for some reason, if this is the spectrum of like fear to love, for some reason, even though Sarah and I have had very vulnerable conversations and open and honest conversations, we tend to want to be in that love, gratitude, positivity zone all the time. And whenever Erin's showing up stressed out, overwhelmed, irritated, anything that's not in that zone, panic made Sarah feel, or vice versa. And similarly, like when she's in that, and I'm like, well, what's going on? We just need to get to gratitude. Why, you know, what, you know. And it can be so unfortunate. And the therapist has just been like, y'all are humans. Y'all are humans. Y'all are humans. Relax. Like, y'all are trying to live in this little bubble of positivity, which is beautiful. The bubble of positivity is beautiful. But hey, hey, you feeling sad? It's okay to feel sad. Your grandma, you just got to wave to your grandma through a window. It's sad. It's okay to feel sad. Like, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
So I just appreciate you sharing that. That real. So now you're writing another book of poems.
I am. I'm almost done, actually, just working on the cover. I'm going to publish it soon. I tend to try to do everything at the same time, though. So I'm graduating from grad school, and I'm trying to finish this book, and we're moving, and all this stuff. So it's one of the many things, but it just feels important. It feels like a culmination of my work as a counselor and what I've learned in grad school and what I've learned at my internship site, especially working with these women that are dealing with breakups and betrayal and all this stuff. So it's called Recovery Girl, and it's a book of poems about acknowledging kind of what happened after this. Because it, you know, it wasn't just that we got back together. It was, I really had to be okay with being on my own and continuing to work on my own stuff. and stepping into what I really, once again, stepping into what I really want to do with my life. And yeah, it's about finding recovery, which isn't just this, like, once you found recovery, you're good. Being in recovery is a minute by minute thing. So there are times when I'll regress into my kind of love addict self, and I'll get anxious, and I'll have fear of abandonment. And then Nadia will regress into her love avoidance self, which is like, when I'm like this, she's like, eh. And that's the cycle. But now we have awareness, and we can come quicker back to, okay, what's really happening here? This has nothing to do with actually each other. It's like whatever we experienced in childhood with our major attachment caregivers, like, this is just bringing that up. So we've been working, both of us, on being in recovery from that cycle. So the book kind of goes through my journey in that, and it kind of, it ends, but there's going to be another one, because it's like, it's never done. Yeah.
I need that book.
I'll send it to you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I think there's a lot of us that need that book.
And I didn't even know this love addiction, this existed. I didn't know this till I was placed by God or universe into this specific field placement site where I'm working with this population that I look back and I'm like, oh, that was me 2 years ago. I was that level of in pain, distraught, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's a lot of people.
So needed. I think I was chatting with a friend who the other day, who's just recently gone through a divorce, and he, I was listening to him, and he's just like, why did I not learn this stuff in premarital counseling? He's like, why didn't we know? Why were we not taught this? I don't know. And I know you have similar, like, it's like, it would be so wonderful if, when you're going to school from 7 to 18, maybe a little bit more after that for some folks, if there was some sort of intentional, like, course that, with some different counseling strategies where you're learning tools and techniques to, like, deal with emotional things. And
totally.
And so he just was like, I feel like if I had had premarital counseling, well, one, they may not have ever gotten married is what he's, is probably, I think that's when you really dive in, with, you're like, okay, that's big, is that something I'm wanting to sign up for in partnership?
And I think knowing that, of course, that every partner that you have is going to be unique and bring their own things.
Right.
But also, it's not about the partner. It's like, Nadia is just a reflection of my wounds and what I need to work on healing. And when Nadia wasn't around and I was flailing and smoking cigarettes and I reached for someone else, I got the same experience. It was another person that triggered my abandonment and my anxiety. And so that's another concept in the book of, like, all right, if I have to heal this stuff, I might as well do it with someone that I really love that also wants to heal their stuff. And so let's both heal our stuff together. Because if we break up, it's just going to come up with the next person. So I'd rather it be with you, who, like, plays guitar really well, and, like, cooks me dinner. So
yes.
So yeah.
Yes. Amen. Oh my goodness. So helpful. I mean, really, I really appreciate you being open, and just so helpful for me to hear. And and I'm definitely very excited for your book.
Yeah.
And I'll be sure to, your IG account would be where, or to your Olivia the Creative. You also have a website that people can
OliviaTheCreative.com.
Okay. I'll make sure I have that, available for listeners. Because
Sounds
just,
good.
yeah, I think just important, you know, I think, yeah, what you're sharing is just, it sounds like you've done a ton of soul searching, you know, and yeah, and just continued to like, okay. And this, the fact that you're doing this counseling program and like you said, the internship, I mean, that's so cool that how much that's been a part of the healing process almost is what it seems like.
Definitely. Yeah. I couldn't have, predicted that I would be working in a treatment center that's treating my own stuff too. But that's, that's the synchronicity of life when you say yes and keep moving forward.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, wow, good stuff. Let me head on to another question.
It's like that one. Is that just like one question?
That was good. No, I mean, I think that's a fun adventure we just went on. And I think that, yeah, I guess I would throw out a question would be, so for someone who is listening in, who is in a challenging spot right now, maybe is struggling with a lost relationship or a relationship that finished, maybe has just recently left a relationship because it's not been working, or just is going through something challenging right now. If, what would obviously like, what would be a few things you might recommend people like explore or look into? You've explored so many modalities, in this last decade, decade plus. What would you suggest someone explore?
That's a good question. I think that a consistent thing in my experience has been working with a counselor or therapist or some sort of group. And I feel like especially in crisis, I instantly got a counselor when I was going through the breakup, and I would see her sometimes twice a week because I was that low. And I had, a good stable job that could pay for that. But for people, that don't have those resources, there are 12-step recovery groups that are free. And, for all sorts of things, under earning, debting. But sex and love addiction has a 12-step recovery group that has phone meetings, that has texting and different things to connect, because you need that connection in times of grief and crisis. So really just some sort of support, a counselor, if that's something that's like accessible, and then some sort of community.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Both of those. I've had a friend here recently who's just dropped into a 12-step program here in the last 6 or 8 months, and he's just in amazed at how much it's helping him.
Yeah.
And just the accountability and I appreciate you sharing that option too. Yeah. Yeah. He's like, I needed why, again, another one of those, like, why are we not learning these things or something,
Yeah.
Like us grown adults, we're like, this is helpful having somebody, having this out, this perspective, outsider perspective, third party perspective, whether it's a therapist or just having accountability because I think sometimes with friendships, it's not always easy. It's not always easy to know, like, okay, how much do I want to share with that person? Or, right. I think a lot of people, so then we just feel alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, so good. So currently you have a lot on your plate. So in times of, high stress, I mean, you've shared some things, but like in times of high stress, what are some of your go-to strategies, you know, that do keep your feet on the ground and your soul feeling safe and good? You know, what are
Yeah. A very like tangible thing that I do is I make a big pot of tomato sauce, because that reminds me of home and feeling grounded. So I just get some crushed tomatoes, put them in the blender, saute some garlic, and then just make a big thing of tomato sauce. So that way throughout the week I can have pasta with tomato sauce. It's filling, it reminds me of home, and it's grounding and quick, because I have like very little time right now as I'm finishing up this chapter. And in the same token, I've kind of adopted this like acceptance, because, you know, down the line when I'm not doing 8 million things, I wouldn't necessarily want to be having pasta 3 nights a week, because maybe that's not the best for my body. But I've accepted that, you know what, things are going to be a little bit messy right now. Like I'm going to have pasta 3 times a week. I might not do my physical therapy exercises every day. I'm going to do them when I can. So this like radical acceptance of like, things are hard right now and things are busy and I'm doing the best I can, not like beating myself up. So I do self-care, very like sporadically. Like I will do yoga stretches. I will meditate. I will dance. This morning I danced around the house. But consistency is not my strength. That's actually Nadia's strength. Okay. So I guess just accepting that I'm going to do what I can each day, and it doesn't have to look a certain way, to be effective. So.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I love that, because I think that so many of us get so lost in like, oh, I can't get a meditation practice going, or it's, you know, or I don't have one going. But realizing it's, yeah, keep going. But it's like,
yeah, it's like, I mean, ideally I would love to be meditating every day and doing yoga every day and all these things, but my personality is definitely one of variety, and I'm just playing to that right now. Like I don't need to shame myself for not being consistent. Sometimes I do tapping, like the EFT tapping. Sometimes I'll do a 10-minute meditation on calm, but just doing what I can when I can. Nadia is the opposite. Nadia is like 30-minute meditation, yoga, lemon water, journaling, all this stuff. So it's a practice too, to keep accepting myself and saying like, that's Nadia's way and she's great and I don't have to compare myself.
Yeah.
So
that's just such a good reminder for all of us, because comparison is always floating in there, right? It's always floating around where it's like, oh geez, that guy. Yeah. I mean, I've got a buddy over on the East Coast who I'm just like in awe of his consistency. And I'm more of I'm walking, I see a hummingbird and I'm like, take a couple deep breaths. And I'm like, that was it. That was good. You know what I mean? Like, right. That's more kind of how I meditate. It's just more in like those moments, or in conversation, you know, like I feel like I'm in a meditate, like I feel like I'm in a little bubble when I'm hanging out with you right now.
Mindfulness, mindfulness and being present.
Anyway, I just love that permission that it's like, it's not always going to be this, that it's self-care. I think that a lot of us do over stress about not doing it the right way, or not being as intentional as we could be. And then we beat ourselves up for it for 3 days and drop the ball on everything because we're just beating ourselves up, you know?
Yeah.
Appreciate that reminder. Yes. So, are there any books out there or authors out there, you've been diving into lots of material here the last couple of years, but like just in your life up till now, because I always love to just provide ideas for folks that are listening, where it's like, hey, here are a couple like people you're really into, you know, or maybe music. I mean, you're so sick, like as you're sharing around, I'm like, what music, author,
a book that I have read a few times that I really love is called This Time I Dance. It's by Tama Keeves. And I was reading that book around the time of, you know, deciding to leave my full-time job to follow my passions, because it was about, you know, a very successful lawyer that had some sort of wake-up call and decided, like, what am I doing? I don't like wearing suits and pantyhose and going on the train and doing paperwork. And so she really stepped back and found what her passions were, and has been dancing and writing and creating. And that was just such a game changer, because again, it was like not follow the traditional route. So that book is a big one for me. And then Amy Steinberg is a friend of mine that I met in North Carolina at a New Thought church. And she's an amazing musician, and she has just albums and albums of music about these New Thought concepts of surrender and divine love and shining your light. And they're good, you know, fun songs. So again, just listening to like music with a higher vibration. So her name's Amy Steinberg. Yeah.
Steinberg. And you listen to her on YouTube, or she's got iTunes or Amazon?
She has, she's on Spotify, she's on YouTube, iTunes. She's been doing it for a really long time. So she has a lot of music.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to ask on the music front. So you said, you know, you do like all sorts of music, but percentage wise, are you consuming 95%, you know, music Steinberg, or are you more in a 50-50 vibe right now, or what, you know, like
yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of what I listen to is pretty intentional. So it's like Amy Steinberg, Michael Franti, Nako, Trevor Hall, because a lot of the music that I listen to, it's in preparation for leading like therapeutic movement groups, which I'm very intentional about my playlist. So I get really familiar with the music. So I just listen to the music over and over again because it feels good. But so that way I know when the big crescendo is coming and I can lead, and then we can, you know, swan dive or whatever it is. I do best when I'm really connected and I know what's coming in the music. So I don't look for new music often. I just kind of keep
just kind of keep locking in on those musicians and high vibration music. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. You know what? I may have been influenced by y'all back at karaoke, because I always kind of have thought about that, you know, when I'm consuming music, and I think seeing y'all do that. I mean, I still definitely have sung Semi-Charmed Life since then, but I'm trying to work on my I think I did a Michael Franti recently and had fun with him. He's got a YouTube karaoke.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing those. I just I think that resources, right? I think sometimes it just feels like, well, where do I find guidance? Who can I listen to, or, you know, what? And I think that, depending upon the person, we can feel like where do you find somebody? So, so appreciate those. So if you were to have a room full, this will be the final question. If if you were to have a 20,000 people in the room, hanging on, just ready to like get a nice download from you, to like have them walk away just feeling like pumped, empowered, present, all the good things, awake, aware. What would you offer folks who are listening right now, but also the room of 20,000? What are a couple of things, 2 or 3 things that you would just be like, hey, boop, 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 these 3 things, this would be game changing. Anyway.
Yeah, I just want to take a minute to like envision that, because that is part of my kind of dream one day, is to be able to stand on stage and tell my story. And I think I've done things like telling my story in different ways, but I have called in so many other things by just feeling the feelings. So thank you for inviting that vision, standing on stage, telling my story, doing it through music and movement, interactive ways. I would think about, I would, create an energy, a vibe that feels good, through movement and music. Like, I think so much can be done through movement and music. So just some, like upbeat music, we're all shaking our hands and moving to the beat and just getting into a better vibration, because all day long we're just taking on so much stuff. So you notice that dogs will shake and as a way to regulate, but we often just take stuff on and just keep it. So I start off by shaking, and I would, say to this audience, as you can see, movement is so important. You need to find some way to move every day, whatever that is. I think my biggest takeaways in life and my journey that I want to share with other people is, life is precious and short. So why not take a leap of, why not do a job that you want to do? Why not reach out to someone that is further along the path than you and say, hey, I really like what you're doing. Can you tell me how you got there? Or I want to connect with you because I'm really passionate and I'm at the beginning of my journey. Take the risk, because taking that risk and taking that leap only leads to more, expanding more. Life is too short to stay small and contained. And I just recently posted on my Instagram, it's like something to the effect of, I think Glennon Doyle said, if you want to paint, if you want to write, if you want to do something, do it. Just publish it, just do it. And don't worry about, is it good enough? I feel blessed with the gift of not having perfectionism, because I just take action and I just produce and I just get stuff out there. And that meant that the first version of my book had a few spelling errors, and that was okay. Now there's like a vintage version of my book out there with spelling errors, but not holding myself back before everything's perfect, just doing it. Because that's, that's all we have is this opportunity to really just show up and really express ourselves, because you never know. I mean, especially with COVID, it was kind of a wake-up call for me of like, life is short. Why not just express yourself? So it's my future TED Talk. More coming soon.
Yeah, you got me pumped up.
Awesome. I got myself pumped up, but also the coffee.
That was great. No, I got chills when I was doing that. Just clearing, right? Yeah, movement. I think sometimes I forget.
Oh, I always forget. It's a reminder to myself.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for creating the space for me to chat a lot.
I mean, thanks for dropping us in, and I really, just value your voice and yeah, I'm just thankful to know you
Mm.
and excited to just see what's ahead, see what's ahead, just one day at a time. And I know you have a lot on your plate right now, and I'm just sending you so much love as you walk through that and get to celebrate here in the coming days, and just breathe into the new adventures that are ahead. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
so again, thanks, Olivia. Really appreciate you. Those of you who joined live, through YouTube or on the podcast, Apple or Spotify, grateful for your support. If you dropped in today and got pumped, got inspired, and you feel like a friend may benefit from listening in, feel free to share the link with them. Invite them to check us out on Instagram or Facebook, Our Healing Voices. And I know Olivia would 100% want to hear from you, through Instagram. So if you've been touched and pumped up today and want to connect and reach out, feel free to connect with her through her website also, and through Instagram. So
thank you.
Anyway, here's to all of us continuing to grow, more authentic, more kind, more aware of how powerful our voices are, and that our voices are needed for the collective to grow and to become stronger and more loving. So here's to one day at a time, us all doing that. Thank you so much, Olivia.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.